Hi, this is Lauren from LSP Actions, and I'm really pleased to show you the new autumn leaf overlays by LSP. These are real leaves that I've shot in the studio, so they are organic photographs. They're incredibly high resolution, so they will print very, very big, and they're very, very sharp. These are real autumn leaves that you can add to your images. I toyed with creating several different overlays, like with the bubbles that you can kind of add on, and then I soon realised all photos have a very different depth of field and a very different feel, so you'd need literally thousands and thousands of combinations of leaf overlays, so I figured you can do it yourself. I have created some actions for you to add your leaves in here, the organic leaf actions, or you can add them yourself manually. I'm going to show you how to do this first. You can go up to here, File, Place, and locate your LSP organic leaf overlays, which you will get upon download. These are over 80 real leaves, all arranged into categories together so that you can kind of work from the same area. I'd recommend choosing leaves that go with your image. Don't just choose a bunch of random ones because you think they're pretty. Look at the image, look at the kind of leaves and colours that are in your image, and go from there. So for this lovely image here by Kelly Venables, I am going to start by using these star leaves, kind of these 5 pointed leaves, because these really go with her image. So you place the leaf in and it will be very, very big and very, very sharp. But that's cool because you can come up here and resize the leaf to suit your image. Bear in mind, leaves that are meant to be in the foreground will be bigger because they're closer to the camera, and leaves for the background will be smaller. I always start by adding in leaves around the subjects, so around the right size there, and you just hit enter, and that's how you add a leaf. I'm going to rasterize this layer so I can show you the actions here. The organic leaf actions, you have a choose your leaf action, which takes the place option away from you. This will place your leaf in and rasterize it for you. You can resize it here. You can tone the leaf, you can brighten it, you can warm it up, you can take some of the saturation out so you can really make that leaf fit your image. We have undo, so you can go back, 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 or forward, forward if you need to, if you do a few things to your leaf and you want to step back a few times. And then you have the blur options for your leaf. I'm going to click up here and go into button mode. Pull it in a little bit and you will see button mode gives your leaf actions these lovely kind of colour codes here, so they're really easy to just click and play. You don't have to click on the play button, you can just click. So for this leaf I've just added in, I'm going to add blur blend with image. I'd recommend doing this on all the leaves because the reality is, unless your leaf is very, very close to the camera, you're not going to want it as sharp as they come out. You're going to want to blur it and bed it in a little bit. So come up here to choose leaf and resize. This will do exactly what we did a moment ago with place, but it will make it even easier because you're on your actions. Again, locate your organic leaf folder and choose your leaf. I'm going to go for this one. Okay, and it comes in big, so I'm just going to resize it, and I'm going to pop that one perhaps up here. You can kind of rotate your leaves as well, so you can get them looking kind of exactly how you want them to look and where you want them to look. I'm going to hit blur, blend with the image. I'm also going to take the saturation down just a dink on that leaf so it blends in a little bit more. And I'm going to add another leaf. So you just kind of keep going with this and keep going until you're happy with where your leaves are and your image. The great thing is as well, these are all on separate layers. I'm going to add this leaf a little bit in the background here. So I'm going to add a background blur. So yeah, these leaves are all on different layers, so you can turn them off and add them in as you want to. You can also click on the layer, hit V, there's a little tip here, hit V to move, or you can hit on your move tool up here and just move the leaves exactly where you want them to go. So you're just going to keep kind of choosing and placing your leaves and adjusting them with the necessary amount of blur that you feel is needed for your image. So I'm going to pop blend with image again on this one. I'm going to hit resize and rotate. Oop. There we go. Just to kind of shrink that leaf in a little bit. And I'm going to pop another light blur on there. So we're going to come up here again, choose leaf and resize. I'm going to keep going with these leaves, these star leaves, the 5 pointed leaves, because these suit the image. And I'm just going to pop this little one in there. Let's put him there. And I'm going to make this one a little bit warmer and take the saturation down. I may darken it a touch too. You can play these as many times as you like. You can just keep kind of clicking until you're happy. I'm going to add another leaf. How about this one here? And shrink it down and position it where I want it to be. I'm going to blur this one with a medium blur, just because it will add a lovely bit of depth. I also like to add rather large leaves at the front to add, you know, that real depth of field, almost like you're kind of peeking into your image, which I think is really lovely. I'm just going to move the actions palette down a bit. So some leaves at the front. Obviously, anything at the front is generally going to be very, very blurry, so I'm going to add a couple of foreground blurs there. And I'm going to choose another leaf. I'm going to show you the motion blur on this one before I move on to another image in a moment. Put that one there. I'm going to warm this leaf up a little bit, just a couple of touches, and put a bit of motion blur on there, as well as a foreground blur. And I'm going to add something in between now. So we have these leaves on the focal plane, we have a couple falling in the background, and I'm going to perhaps add one in between around here. So that's the good thing about these, you can just keep kind of looking and adding as you see fit, really. You can also right click and flip the leaf the other way, flip horizontal if you wanted to. So I'm going to add this leaf here, and I'm going to put a little bit of motion blur, I think, on that one. Yep, I think that looks fine. I'm going to take it down just a touch smaller as well. I may add one more leaf down here and one up here just to balance it out a little bit. But like I said, the good thing is you can just kind of keep playing, and you can take them away and add them as you want to. And the great thing about that too is every image is going to be unique, because you are completely in charge of how you add these leaves and what you do to them. Pop that one off focus a little bit there. And let's maybe add one more little leaf somewhere at the top. Let's go for that little one there. And I'm going to shrink him down. And I'm just going to warm that one up a little bit as well. Take some of that green out by taking the saturation down, making it warmer. I'm going to perhaps darken it a little bit. And then I'm going to take that focus off. So, I would recommend selecting your leaves and popping them in a group. Let's call that leaves. So you can see your before and after. So that's before and after adding the leaves. Down here you also have a bonus, the LSP Awesome Spice, awesome, yeah, well, it's quite awesome, the Autumn Spice overlay, and this will just add a lovely warm overlay to your image, which you can come up here on the opacity and slide as you like. So I'm going to pop that in the group too. So that is before, and that's after with the leaves and the Autumn Spice overlay. So thanks, Kelly, for sending that gorgeous image in. Okay, image here from Karen Wiltshire, which is gorgeous. I love all of Karen's images. So I'm going to choose some leaves for this one. I'm going to come down here and use the more, you know, kind of rounded leaves here, the more normal looking leaves for this. And as you can see from the leaves that have fallen already, they are quite small. They're quite little leaves. So to keep this looking realistic, I'm going to add these leaves in and keep them quite small to go with the tone. I'm going to take saturation down a little bit on this one, and blend blur and a light blur there. And again, add your leaf and resize. Let's go for that little one there. I'm going to make this even smaller and make this into a background leaf. Background leaves I'd recommend, you know, bringing them down to the bottom, and foreground leaves I would put to the top of your layer pile. You don't have to, it just keeps things neater, especially if leaves are overlapping. So I'm going to give that one a background blur, and perhaps a little bit of falling motion blur. I'm also going to take the saturation down. Okay, choose another leaf here. You can also make the leaves very blurry as well, if you wanted to. You know, you can just keep clicking the blur and keep clicking it and keep clicking it until it, you know, looks right to your eyes and the depth of field in your image. So I'm going to add a background blur. I may add a falling motion blur, and perhaps another background blur to really blur that little leaf there. I'm going to darken it down and take the saturation down just a little bit. I'm also going to move that leaf down to maybe somewhere around there. Okay, so let's add another leaf. Let's go for that one there. Again, I'm going to shrink it right down, and I'm really paying attention to the way these leaves look on the floor already, which is why I don't want to boost the saturation, which is why I'm taking the saturation down, darkening them and warming them up. Although there is some green here, so you could kind of add some green to this image if you wanted to. I'm going to undo that blur that I just put on there and change it for a light blur instead, because I would quite like that to be the main leaf. Let's have Doggy looking at that little leaf that's just about to fall down to the ground. Okay. And now I'm going to choose which one. I may choose that one there. Okay, shrinking it right down, moving it until I'm happy. And I'm just going to pop this leaf, I'm going to pop a real kind of big blur on this one. I'm going to go for a background blur, a falling in motion blur, and then perhaps another background blur. This leaf here I feel is standing out quite a bit, so let's just turn these off until I find it. That's the one there. So I'm just going to move this somewhere where it perhaps looks a little bit brighter, where it doesn't catch the eye quite so much. If you're not happy with the leaf, I mean, I'm not really happy with that leaf, I'm just going to hit delete and take it out, and I'm going to choose another leaf, which is the great thing as well about having these all on their separate layers, is you can delete, you can move them, you can change them as you go, because sometimes, as I just did, you might kind of go for a while and then you may think, oh, hang on, no, I'm not too big on that leaf, so I'm just taking the saturation out of this one a little bit, warming it up just a touch. No, I don't want to take the contrast up, so I'm going to undo that, take the saturation down and give that one a medium blur. So I'm just going to keep adding a couple more leaves. Let's add a bit of a curly leaf here, just to add a little bit of leaf interest without kind of changing it up too much. I'm going to put this one like it's just about to land, so I'm going to blur and blend that one with the image. There we go. I'm just going to make this one a little bit darker because I feel it stands out a little bit too much. Okay, anyway, I could carry on for ages, but you get the gist. So that is before and after adding leaves to this image. Again, we could add some leaves around the front, as I like to do, like I did before. So we could add perhaps this leaf here, and I'm going to really blur this one. I'm going to give it several foreground blurs to really kind of go with that depth of field. The main thing you want to avoid is not to let these be a distraction. You want them to kind of add and frame your image. You don't want them to kind of distract the eye. Just think, you know, if there was something there, would I actually clone it out? Don't add in something that you would want to clone out. But I'm just kind of showing you so you get the idea of the different things you can do with these leaves. And let's pop this one right here at the front too. I've just given this one several foreground blurs, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay. And again, let's play Autumn Spice Overlay, and then I'm going to take the opacity on this one down because this image is already lovely and warm. So I'm just going to pop a dink of Autumn Spice in there. So that is before and after. So thank you, Karen. This how cute is she, from Catherine. Okay, so I'm going to choose some of the redder toned leaves for this image, because the image is already nice and pink, and that goes quite nicely. Clicking randomly all over the place. Okay. So first of all, the image is on the focal plane with the little girl. I'm going to add in here. I'm going to take the saturation down. You can add a bit of haze matte to the leaves as well if that's the kind of the feel your image already has, and blur blend with the image. Let's pop another little red leaf in there somewhere. How about this one? This one is going to be slightly more in the foreground, which is why I've made it a little bit bigger, to give this image some real depth, kind of coming out to the camera. So I'm going to give that a medium blur. I might try brightening that one up just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to add another leaf. I think the key to falling leaves is, you know, build them up quite slowly. Don't overdo them. Add them in, and you can always make them visible and invisible to see how they suit your image. You know, as and when you go. I'm going to give that one a little bit of motion blur there. Okay, this one's going to look quite dark for this image, but that's cool because I'm just going to brighten it up quite a bit by hitting brighten a couple of times. So there we go, nice and bright. And I'm going to give that a medium blur and make it smaller. I may brighten it up a little bit, add some matte haze and take the saturation down. And blur it even more, there we go. So I'm going to come down again to these same kind of leaves I was looking at. And I'm going to right click, flip that one horizontal, because I want it facing the other way. Let's give that one a downwards falling motion. Okay, and again I'm going to add a little bit of haze matte there, brighten it up. Actually, undo that, I didn't want to brighten it quite that much. Take saturation down and blur off focus, I think I'm going to go for that one. Let's make it a little bit warmer too. So now I'm going to add a couple of foreground leaves, so these are going to be larger and blurrier in the foreground. So we just got to think where these are kind of falling in from. So let's give this quite a bit of foreground blur. To me that leaf looks very orange, so I'm going to take the saturation down for this image. Okay, I'm going to add a leaf kind of falling onto her dress as well, which gives even more kind of credibility to the leaves. Let's go for that one though. But there really are infinite things you can kind of do with these leaves. Okay, so let's have that one falling. Again, I'm going to give it a little bit of a light blur there. Perhaps take some of the, oh no, not saturation boost. Perhaps take some of the saturation down just a little bit on that one. And maybe one more foreground leaf. And maybe one more background leaf too. So let's see what we're going to put in the foreground. Something quite relaxed, let's go for that one there. Okay, I'm going to take the saturation right down on this one and blur it quite a lot. Okay. This leaf here, I think I want to blur that one a little bit more too. There it is. So I'm just going to click on the layer and give it a little bit more of a blurring. Perhaps even with a tiny bit of falling motion blur there. And maybe one more little leaf in the background up here would look quite nice. So I'm just going to find the right leaf for that job. There we go. And because it's in the background, it's going to be quite a bit smaller. And because of the depth of field, I'm going to give this quite a heavy background blur. The way these blurs work is, you know, with the size of your image. So if you've got a very small image, the light blur will look quite heavy, whereas if you've got a large image, the light blur will look very light indeed. So please bear that in mind when you're clicking about the blurs. I'd always work on your full-sized images, but when they're finished, you know, add the leaves last. Okay, I'll put them in a group. There's before and after adding some falling leaves to this image. Kind of got a nice swirly leaf effect there. You can also add leaves to the floor or near the floor as well. You can add a blur, you can add a drop shadow to those too. How about we put this leaf the other way around, kind of landing near to the floor, near her feet. So again, I'm going to take that saturation down a little bit, blend it with the image. We have a floor drop shadow here. As you can see, that's quite far. You really need to, once you've added your floor drop shadow, you see the direction of the light there. That's actually not too bad for this image where that shadow is hitting, but you can then double click the image here, go onto your drop shadow, and you can kind of drag it around where you want that shadow of the leaf to land. You can also play with the, the size of the shadow too, to get it realistic. Okay. That just gives your image a little bit more depth. So, that is the organic leaf overlays by LSP. These are going into the shop this evening. Your actions here, you don't have to use the actions. The actions are just given kind of as a bonus to give you some really good pointers of how to blend the leaves into your images. And thank you so much for everybody who sent their images in for me to use to demonstrate these leaves. I'll be popping all of the before and afters into the shop as well.